miles away from the K&H injection well, and we also live only a couple miles from that site and very close to the property that has been purchased by the owners of the K&H injection site. So although we live close to the K&H, Felicia has talked about that earlier today. So I'm going to focus on another injection well that hasn't really been talked about much today, and that is the Ginsburg injection well. The state of Ohio, as well as the United States Environmental Protection Agency, has allowed the Ginsburg injection well to operate off and on for years in violation of state law. It is a converted oil gas well that is now used as an injection well for frack waste. It's located at 2345 Lad Ridge Road in Alexander Township, Athens County, Ohio. This well violates the health, safety, and well-being of our community. You drive to this well down a peaceful country road, sheep grazing on the farmlands on your way, and then you encounter a pit of smelly, disgusting frack waste that remains openly accessible to wildlife and vulnerable to the ravages of weather, allowing for the possibility of ground and surface water contamination. Such contamination poses a real threat to the drinking water and air quality of our community. The Ginsburg injection well is owned by Carper Injection Well, Albany. Review of publicly accessible inspection records reports by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources show that this well has a history of violations, non-compliance, and being non-operational for months at a time. Mechanical failure and leaking has occurred, as well as soil contamination. This well is a blight upon our community. The stench emanating from this pit is often unbearable. People spending time on the public road have experienced nausea, headache, and burning eyes. The Ginsburg well does not meet current Ohio permitting standards, which are, as they stand, inadequate to protect drinking water and communities from toxic radioactive contamination. It is unconscionable that the surrounding surface, ground, and drinking water supplies have never been tested by ODNR for contamination. This well has been in operation for over 30 years and has a long history of non-compliance with few regulations that exist, and these few that do exist have been constantly not been complied with. Residents of Athens County have repeatedly voiced our concerns about this well, and our concerns have gone unnoticed by the governing officials who should be protecting us. This is very disappointing to me because I myself have written to the governor, I have participated in public demonstrations, and I have gotten no response from the governor of Ohio. I've gotten no response from any of the legislators I've contacted. I've made phone calls. I've heard nothing back from any of these people about my concerns about this well that's openly, possibly contaminating the area around, right outside of Athens. Just over a couple months ago, acting on reports by the ODNR that showed this well to have been non-operational since October of 2015, we appealed to the ODNR and to the Ohio's Governor Kasich to permanently close this well. According to the ODNR regulations, any injection well not in use for greater than 60 days must be plugged. After a long period of time of no response, they finally did respond by putting a new pump in so they could say that was currently in use. This Band-Aid solution demonstrates a blatant disregard for upholding the regulations in place and flouted the concerns of Athens County residents. Making this well operational now does not change the fact that it was in violation for months. It is appalling to me as a resident of Athens County and Ohio that the very few regulations that are in place, when we speak up and say, hey, follow your rules, they ignore us repeatedly and do nothing about it. I don't believe the regulations that are in place are actually adequate, but they should at least be following the ones that are in place. This technical violation is the least of our concerns. When one closely reads these inspection reports, one can see that during 2016, when the well was being listed as non-operational containing a faulty pump that needs replacing, 60 barrels of waste were added to the volume totals for this injection well. Additionally, the levels of this well increased 2 feet, an amount that is not consistent with the amount of rainfall in the area during that time period. According to the Athens Messenger newspaper, ODNR spokesperson Eric Heiss stated in an email that the 60 barrels of waste were injected prior to the pump malfunction. It appears to me from the ODNR records that this is either a blatant lie or reflective of incompetence in documentation and a lack of attention to detail. Either one is frightening. This is a matter concerning the safety of our families and their drinking water. We cannot have lack of attention to detail at the least, or dishonesty at the worst. The fact is, there have been enough violations at this injection site and enough discrepancy surrounding the true condition of this well that we should no longer be complacent. It is time for the ODNR to do its job and protect the environment and our community from possible toxic contamination. According to the permit for this well, a freshwater monitoring well was recommended to be placed at this site by the owner Royal Petroleum in 1984. There has never been any such monitoring well. That is not surprising. They have never shown any interest in ensuring the safety of our community. A freshwater well for monitoring possible contamination would have been an added expense for them. This is another example of how the ODNR is failing to protect us in the interest of big oil, and another reason that this well must be closed immediately. On November 19th, 2015, an inspection report states, the facility gate was locked. The 5-foot Rumpke dumpster located next to the entrance to the unloading pad has large holes in the bottom portion. This dumpster is used to dispose of used brine filters. The 5-foot area and 2-foot area behind the dumpster is contaminated. The contaminated soil must be removed and taken to an EPA-approved landfill. Inspection reports over the next several months revealed no contaminated soil removal took place. It is now unclear exactly when the contaminated soil was removed or how it was removed. The cleanup was not immediate. It was not reported to the ODNR and was not adequately documented. The company did not inform the ODNR where the contaminated soil and brine filters were taken. It is possible that the contaminated soil and brine filters had radioactive material. We have seen repeatedly through scientific studies and articles revealing these that injection wells can cause earthquakes. It is well known that the solution injected into these wells, which they call brine, is laced with toxic chemicals and radioactive material. Yet we are forced to live and work and raise our children next door to these sites that are barely monitored and poorly regulated, and we are told we don't even have a right to know what is being forced into the ground, contaminating our aquifers and farm soil. We write our senators and call our governors and march on our representatives' offices. We meet with members of the ODNR, and nothing ever changes. This community has lived through DuPont, the chemical plant that makes Teflon, dumping C8 into our water, and we have watched our loved ones suffer and die with various illnesses and cancers because of it. Why should we be forced to do this again with frack waste? I don't want to see another generation getting sick from drinking water and breathing air. I am terrified of what we are allowing these frack injection wells to do to us. Why do our elected officials want to wait and see what happens? Haven't we seen enough environmental disasters to know that we can't afford the luxury of complacency? Just because our community is poor doesn't mean we're expendable. We deserve to have clean water and air. Our children deserve to have clean water to drink and clean air to breathe. Ohio and the federal government are in violation of so many human rights that the list could go on and on for a longer period of time than my 10 minutes here today. But I believe our governments are in violation of the duty to protect children. They are violating human rights obligations relating to the enjoyment of safe, clean, and healthy, sustainable environments, human rights obligations to health, the rights of all persons to the highest standards of health, the right to be protected from injury, and the right of people who are basically being used as experimental subjects to free and informed consent, the right of children to have the highest standard of health, our right to life, liberty, and security of person, our right to participation and the decision-making in environmental issues. This right has been flouted over and over again. As I said before, we repeatedly attempt to work within the system and to ask for help and to have our lawmakers work with us and meet with us, explain to us and test things. We want to follow the rules, but they won't even meet us halfway. We deserve the right to participation in these decision-making issues, and we deserve the right to a healthy environment. I believe that we are under attack, and I think Athens County is under attack because we are considered poor and expendable, and that is violating the rights of human justice. And thank you for listening today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So could you, at the beginning, you were talking about the open area that is accessible for wildlife, and can you explain what that would, paint us a picture?
Okay.
It would be helpful.
I had not seen it. I'd heard about it. When I went to see it, I was amazed because you think a well should be an enclosed area, but it's this big rectangular open thing, almost like a rusty, disgusting looking swimming pool. Just big open, you can see this murky fluid stuff in it. And yes, there is a fence kind of around the property, but the part in the back did not appear to me to be well fenced. I believe that I could have easily gotten over the fence, and I could not tell that it was completely fenced in the back part facing the field and the wood area. So I firmly believe that wildlife could get into it. And we had taken pictures, my husband had taken pictures earlier, and there had been a lot of rainfall, and then we were there, and we noticed that that it actually looked lower than in the pictures we had taken before a lot of rainfall, which seems suspicious to us as well, because why would the levels be lower if there's been rain? But they don't test anything or really investigate it, so they say it's intact and there's no problem with it.
So even if it's fenced in, birds can get in there.
Right.
And often do. I know they have a problem in Berkeley pits in Montana where they put up, they made it worse actually, but.
And then there's the smell, neighbors smell things, so there's obviously air contamination just because it's open and.
Volatile chemicals.
Yes.
Have any questions?
Some of the things that you said, one caught my eye.
These are the pictures of
No testing by ODNR. How do we know for sure about that?
We have not found any records of it that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Nancy or Kate? You good?
Thank you. Well, there was some question about some filters that were used on site, and that one of the workers there had thrown it into a dumpster right there and was not aware apparently that there would be any danger from touching it or, disposing of it in a regular.
Well, I think we've talked about that earlier today, how a lot of times the workers don't understand the possible, and a lot of these sites don't understand what they're dealing with, so they do things like throw contaminated filters and handle them with ungloved hands and put them into dumpsters that have holes in them so they can contaminate, because they don't even think it's a big deal because they don't realize what it could be, which the name brine makes you think it's not really that big a deal. Which I've had people say to me when I've talked to them about why this issue is important. They're like, it's just salt water. Really?
So this is another question that I've been sort of asking all day, but so when you complained about them not plugging the well because it was inactive for longer than the period of time that required it, and they came out and put the pump, is there any kind of notification that they have reinstituted a pump, or is the only reason you know this because you guys are sort of keeping an eye on this? I mean, is there any kind of public information about this, or is it just?
The other people here can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe there was any kind of widespread notification. It's probably listed in the reports that get put on the ODNR website, which we've talked about, which would be late, way after the fact. They would probably mention it when they come out to do their inspections, but I don't think they make a big, I was unaware of any kind of public announcement. We are just really in tune with it because we've been following it.
And then to get those inspection reports that you referred to multiple times in your testimony, that again means you have to have a web, you need to understand a software program in
Yes.
order to access them, and then you also need to understand the technical language that they use in a descriptive sort of way.
Which I think people also need to understand, not only do you have to have a computer and the internet, but you have to have a special program that does not normally come with every single, even if you buy like the Microsoft Office suite, you don't have this program unless you specially purchase it. A lot of times businesses might have it, but most people don't have it. Like I don't own it on my personal computer, but my work computer has it. So even people who may have computers and internet may not have this specific program because it's not something you would typically need just to do some PowerPoint, typing at home kind of thing. So I consider it to be very inaccessible, even to people that are a little more educated and a little more in tune with technology. But add to the fact that there are quite a few people that live in Athens County that don't have computers or internet. I think that's a much bigger problem.
And if they do, whether they can afford to purchase this program is another
Right.
barrier to people who are not wealthy or well-to-do in some fashion.
And then once you get all that, then you're trying to understand it. That's a whole other thing. Find it on there and then understand it when you downloaded it. I mean, I have a master's degree, I'm a nurse, I have a degree in education, and I think it's very difficult to understand.
Thank you.
Is there, have there been any spills? It's open, right? So the water, the toxic waste is right there open to the air, which they don't allow anymore, I
Right.
think. But have there been any spills? I mean, it seems like if it rained real hard, which it does more often these days.
I don't believe that they have noted any spills. The things that I've read about have been things about like the brine filters being placed, in the dumpster and stuff, the reports that I read. But I don't know how they can tell. My biggest concern is cracks in it and it going down in the backside, especially down through the fields. And they just kind of walk around and say it looks okay when they do their inspection reports. I don't know if that's sufficient, especially if they're not testing the soil to see if anything's changed from the last time, which they don't do, so.
And is there any way to get that freshwater monitor, or is that,
I guess they'd have to put one in. Who's gonna pay for that?
but it's no longer required, or it is?
It was never
required?
actually required, I guess it was recommended, but of course, since it was recommended, they didn't bother to do it.
So we're talking about ODNR suggesting to the company.
Yes.
No,
No.
No, or
the
opposite.
company.
Oh, yeah.
Company volunteering to
recommended
do it.
So your good neighbor, who doesn't sound so good, promised to put a deep well, freshwater well in to monitor and chose not to. Okay. Thank you.
I'm Leah Harper.
Good afternoon, Leah.
Hi.
You can just do your full name and city and state.